Understood that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 33rd edition of Coffee with Ashish. And today we have got a very special guest with us, Apurva Chamaria from RateGain. And before we get into conversation with him, as always, just reflecting back on our last 32 sessions, we've talked about various travel products. We've talked about various intermediaries in the travel ecosystem. We've talked about hotels, car, flights, GDS, technology companies, OTAs, and whatnot. And I think you would agree that one of the most sensitive matters when it comes to especially Indian customers or even customers across the globe is the price sensitivity. And it's extremely pertinent question even in today's time, where you've got additional cost burdens because of additional cost of compliance, hygiene, sanitation, and whatnot. It's a very difficult question for marketeers and for product owners, travel operators, and intermediaries and distributors who sort of define the trail of pricing chain, and also who gets what out of the pie. So it's an extremely pertinent question, and over the years we have seen people toying around with with research, with campaigns, but it's only last, I guess, 10 to 15 years where these fancy terms like analytics, big data, machine learning, and AI have become buzzwords. And there are a few players in the market, and RateGain is one of them, which are trying to make some sense of it. But most of us, like an average consumer, it's a extremely it's like a black box. And even for some of the travel operators and intermediaries, they really do not understand how to make sense of it, and it's very heuristic or intuition based in terms of how they want to bundle. And sometimes because of these um, you know price discoveries, which are not very logical, it leads sometimes to very funny scenarios. And as always, I've got a couple of cartoons to capture some of these situations around the price discovery process and the portfolio of products. So whether it's about trying to model different product options in hotel in different room categories, or it's about the middle one where people are always coming in to get the best vacation, but they are extremely price sensitive. And this guy is simply saying that we'll take a picture of you in the virtual background like Apurva has, and you can feel yourself you've been to those places. Or is it on the right side where from the travel agent, the moment you disclose what kind of products you have, people, the first question is that, can I get a discount, can I get the cheapest option, what's an all-inclusive price? And there are a lot of hidden price elements in every package or every travel product you consume. And travel agents have been considered very notorious in terms of not doing a full disclosure. And on a serious note, to cater to some of these issues, a lot of people have tried their hands at it in the last decade or so. And I think one of the companies which has been extremely successful at scale in doing it, by far, I would say is RateGain. And I was doing a lot of research around RateGain, and it's an amazing story of a startup, which was started by Bhanu Chopra back in 2005, just as a concept. And in my research, I was finding out that the idea was just to start with a price comparison or a rate benchmarking sort of a platform. But then over the years, it evolved into from a B2B platform to a more mature tech stack, which is now used by anybody and everybody in the world who's a serious travel intermediary. And I also like the philosophy of RateGain, which is to help travel companies price their product better and actually make the most buck out of their pricing matrix. And one of the visions of the organization is to actually become the Bloomberg for travel, which I personally feel is a very exciting vision, because I think travel again is known for a lot of opaqueness. I think it's a very ripe sector because it's a transactional based industry. So somebody coming in and really making a Bloomberg for travel, I think is an amazing vision for something to be pursued. And the company now serves across the board over 20,000 customers in the travel and hospitality space in over 100 countries. And Apurva Chamaria is the chief revenue officer for RateGain, and he's at the helm of affairs, driving the growth and scale for the company across the world. Prior to joining RateGain, Apurva was the global head of corporate marketing for HCL Technologies, which needs no introduction. and he spent more than 12 years at HCL, and he performed various leadership roles in the HCL organization, uh, from being the chief chief of staff for Vineet Nair, who's the HCL CEO, to being the sales director, and he actually scaled HCL Technologies to sort of where it is today under the aegis of the group CEO. And he was also in 2016 awarded the Marketeer of the Year by World Leadership Forum, Digital Marketeer of the Year by IAMAI, and he was also looks pretty young, very deceptive. In 2018, he was 40 under 40 by Campaigns Asia magazine. And prior to HCL, he was also the youngest country manager at Ranbaxy Labs, which is now Sun Pharma. He's also one of the very well recognized top 10 angel investors in the country, with investments in some of the new age tech startups. He's also a best selling author and a columnist, and his book, uh, which was a bestseller within 24 or 25 days of launching. It was also recognized by Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, which was the "You Are the Key: Unlocking Doors Through Social Selling" was the book title. And he's also came up with the second book, which is Master Growth Hacking, and which got stories of a lot of top 10 top tech internet companies in the country. He's a well-known thought leader in the travel industry, and he's quoted in a lot of forums and organizations, including IMAI, TED. He's a TIE charter member. He's also on academic advisory board of IMS group of institutions. He has been a member of advisory group at Maika Ahmedabad. He's also a very a caring citizen, and he's and that I'm proud to share the common thing with you, Apurva. I'm also part of Rotary Capital City Club, and he's also a very active Rotarian. So that's very proud to know that you are also an active Rotarian. And he is himself did schooling from the prestigious Mayo College of Ajmer, and he's got double masters in management from IMI and IMC GNU, and he's also an alumnus of the prestigious Harvard Business School, and pursuing PhD in digital engineering from IIT Delhi. God knows how you find time, Apurva, to do all these accomplishments. And going by your achievement, you are just nearly 40. So it's really inspirational to have somebody like you on our show, and there's going to be so much to learn from you. And in a short span of, I guess, close to 20 years of you working, you achieved so much. I really look up to you for the kind of achievements you've done. So with this, a very warm welcome to you on our show. And with this, I'm going to hand it over to Ashish to have a conversation with you while I sit back and enjoy my coffee.
Thank you, Karthik. That's very, very kind of you to say all these kind words. I followed some of the earlier episodes, and I must say, Ashish, and you're doing an amazing thing by getting all the industry participants together. And I've not forgotten my mug, so.
So how's your coffee then?
Piping hot, and I like dark coffee.
All right, great. So having said that, and you come with the background that you do, so what is your insight and what is your advice to youngsters, people in the travel and tourism and hospitality industry in times which we have classified now as during COVID, and obviously when we do come out of it, known as post-COVID? So what's your general advice on this before we move further?
So, you've asked me for one piece of advice, but I'll give two pieces of advice.
Right.
So it's 1+1 offered.
Right.
So the first thing which I would advise youngsters in this industry is, you're in this industry because you love it. Travel and tourism accounts for 10% of world's GDP and is one of the largest employment generators. The people in this industry are used to working hard. Anytime you visit a hotel or a restaurant, everybody serves you with a smile, even after it's been a long day. And it's something remarkable. So we are in this business because we love the industry. So the first piece of advice is, please be resilient. The strength of your willpower will help you in defying the toughness of the environment outside, especially in these tough COVID times. You should wake up every day with a positive mindset that categorizes you in the flourishing and not languishing category. Be more resilient, more positive, and in the words of Charles Darwin, be more fitter to survive long. The second piece of advice I will give you is, be kind to yourself. This environment is not of your making. It's something which has happened. It's a black swan event. And if you're kind to yourself, That I know I hear heartbreaking stories, people reaching out to me on LinkedIn, people who have lost their jobs are going through pay cuts or are generally going through a very tough time because airlines are shut, hotels are shut, they're on furlough. If you're kind to yourself, you will see this as a silver lining and really work on upskilling, reskilling yourself and becoming better. Because we all know the industry is going to come back. It might take a year, it might take 2 years. We're not pundits here, so we cannot predict what's going to happen. But please be kind to yourself. This is not a crisis of your making, and don't wallow in self-pity that, oh my God, what's happened to me and how will I survive this? This too shall pass. Um, and when this passes back at your best. So use this time to spend time on your health with your family, learning, and you. So this is all about becoming U 2.0.
So Apurva, I'll take you up on the 1+1 and the first part of the offer. Few days from now, I do 41 years in this industry. And let me just confess that for the first 10 years of my life, I wanted to come out of this industry. Every day I said, okay, I'm going to leave this industry. And every day I came back and joined this industry. First 10 years of my life. And today when I sit back during COVID times and 41 years from now, I still say to myself that I'm glad I never did it. Right. So that's just to add to what you said. But coming back again to your insights, what are the prospects of the recovery? How do you see this from a global insight and a global perspective?
So as I said, we've been hit by a black swan event. The past few months have hit the industry very hard. However, things are now looking positive as the demand curve is moving up. From a geography perspective in Europe, we have seen all regions such as Benelux, DAX, Scandinavia, UK, Italy, and Iberia showing an increase in booking numbers. The average net bookings have seen 200% growth since the lowest dip in mid-March. APMEA actually is performing slightly better than Europe, with demand almost reaching 300% of the lowest dips. This doesn't mean we are back to pre-COVID numbers, but from the lowest we had hit, we are now 200 to 300% up. Middle East and Australia are showing relatively flatter growth in comparison to South Asia and Southeast Asia. America is a very interesting case where we have seen growth that has followed the Nike swoosh. If you think about the distribution channels, both GDS and OTAs have shown an increase in bookings. I know we keep saying that corporate travel will come back later, but even then GDS bookings are going up. And of course, OTA bookings are better than GDS because leisure segment is picking up first. There was a research I was reading by CRC Insights, which says that in Europe, 70% of travel bookings which are happening are domestic in-country, 15% intra-country, and only 15-20% intra-continent. So yes, I think across the world, domestic travel will be the savior of the industry. Corporate travel is definitely not on the cards. We keep thinking about WFH. I think work from home is here to stay. Leisure travel is happening. Millennials are traveling. Bargain hunters are traveling. And you will see travel bubbles come up, which will be between cities and between states and between countries. Like New Zealand has no COVID cases remaining. So New Zealand might enter into a travel bubble with other countries and so on and so forth. Luxury hotels will take the longest to recover. It stems from the fact that their core market is primarily older travelers who made money in life, and they are less likely to venture out and take a risk on their health. Furthermore, the fixed cost of luxury hotels are higher, which means it takes far longer for them to operationally break even. And some of them might even shut down to not open ever again. Mid-market will respond faster. And at least our hypothesis is that branded properties and chains will respond faster than independent properties. A traveler who's booking and taking a risk is less likely to trust an independent property than one which is flagged and branded.
Right. So while you're doing all that, are you coming across new revenue management principles for the hotels during these interactions?
Yes. So, traditionally, Ashish, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking. Traditionally, revenue management was all about looking at historical data, historical patterns, demand shifts, demand compression, competitive pricing, and using that to decide the pricing for your room. or airline seat. In this case, all your past experiences, past data has gone out of a 6. As they say in economics and in Italian, it's tabula rasa, which means it's a clean slate. There is no precedence. So some of the things which will come up are real-time pricing strategy. So the conventional historical approach will no longer work. Relying on past trend and insights will become obsolete. History has traditionally played a huge role in pricing of rooms, but COVID has changed that. So the revenue management systems will have to adopt to analytics for creating new pricing strategies. A lot of revenue management systems still are not configured to take in dynamic real-time pricing and come up with forecasts. So I expect more and more RM vendors to come back with products which can ingest real-time pricing and have a forecasting algorithm which looks at recent trends, events, and comes back with pricing strategies. The pricing focus will shift to total revenue management. So traditional RM was just about pricing rooms and 100% focus was on room revenue. However, considering the scenario at hand, RM will now gradually move towards TRM. Revenue managers will price packages better. They will try to price amenities, ancillaries, small day trips, and travelers and guests will need all-inclusive rates and meal plans and package. At times overseas, what happens is a person checks in but does not take a plan with meals included. So in today's condition, a modified American plan or a AP in an all-inclusive packages will be more effective. So that's a huge shift which will happen. And guests would also want, as soon as they land the hotel, to even provide cars. So that, they are in a bubble, you land, it's a hotel car, all meals at the hotel, and you're not really stepping outside of that bubble. And this is from a health and safety perspective. I personally think ancillary is going to become very important. So cross-selling of other hotel services will become prominent while evaluating business mix, like guest stay duration, its location. So imagine if you're a hotel, which is in a less crowded place, can you charge higher? In that hotel, if your room is at the end of the corridor and not close to the lift, right, can you charge higher? Because, it's less likely to come across many people transpressing. And these are very unique things, or I should say they were unique earlier, but now I see more and more hotels talking about it. And the traditional methods of generating revenue through room bookings also might need to get revised. I don't know when spa will open, when swimming pool will open, or even gyms will open. But I see more and more revenue managers bifurcating these things. So traditionally, you had a banquet hall, you would only think of it for marriages or corporate bookings. Now that same banquet hall in a lot of hotels in India and overseas are being converted to co-working. And hotels are saying, come and we are assuring you health, safety, and hygiene. Why don't you use this to do your meetings? I was talking to the Chief Marketing Officer, Senior Vice President Marketing at Millennium Hotels today, Mr. Saurabh Prakash. He's based in Singapore. And Saurabh was telling me they did a conference for 200 people. Each room had 20 people. So 20 is the maximum you can have by Singapore government laws. And it was basically 10 rooms. So effectively they were 200 people, but each room had 20 and they had large screens. So you could do a 200 people conference by taking out beds and use each room for 20 people with large screens. So very, very interesting times ahead, Ashish. And I bet what you and me have not seen in the last 40 years, we're going to see that.
Yeah, and what I'm finding it as a world going around, like I confess that being 41 years in this industry, I've been primarily in the tour and travel operation, intermediary distribution. And I've always found the hotel breed to be one of the most rigid breeds in the country. Prior to 9/11, they built up huge marketing offices of their own, each teams of their own. They didn't want to talk to travel intermediaries. They thought they could market alone. They went to the corporates directly. They went to everybody directly. In the inbound space, they have different tariffs for the French market, different tariff for the British market. They had different everything. And they were absolutely rigid on cancellation. They were absolutely rigid that the checkout meant 12 noon, it meant 12 noon. So, you know, when I see that, and when 9/11 happened, let me tell you, I saw a sea shift in their attitude. Suddenly, you know, they were into with travel agents and say, business at any cost, please give us, you know, we got no occupancy. And I saw the mindset changing. And then came 2006, 7, when aggregators and internet distributors came in, like MakeMyTrip, etc. Then I saw another sea change in their attitude earlier. All this, I'll do it myself, we don't need anybody attitude seems to have suddenly gone out of the window. They resisted it, Apurva, I have to say, for years to come. And now
I know, I remember the times when people would say OTAs are our enemies. And
correct. So what I'm finding it is very heartening to know that suddenly this COVID will probably bring some flexibility around their working to be able to realize that, because still they do that, you know, that rigidness across is not going to work, I do feel. And I like the concept of this day use. I have a friend who's a startup who started a product known as the Day Pass. You can go from Mumbai somewhere in the morning, use the swimming pool, have lunch, take your family, come back at night. It's known as the Day Pass. So that's interesting. But let's come back to you. And what do you see the future of distribution mix as?
It's the elephant in the room question.
Yeah.
So I think there is no one way that can do the trick for hotels today. It has to be a blend of different channels. While considering future distribution, I would consider the following points. As usual, increase distribution from your direct channels. It's the cheapest channel. Mostly, I would not say always, because there is also a cost of running that channel. And at times, this has the highest margin. So own your guest. A typical OTA does not pass on any guest information. So you get the booking, but the guest information is with the OTA.
Yeah.
Which means you're losing control over your customers. So try to build your direct channel more so that you can do pre and post stay engagement. Expand your horizon. Traditionally, most people have only looked at the top 2 or 3 OTAs in the region. But after that, if you add on 6, 7 OTAs from surrounding regions, they could easily be 25 to 30% of your distribution mix. So build on that long tail. At times it works very well, especially because source markets are changing rapidly. Like today, you know, we are thinking about a travel bubble with US. If US deteriorates and suddenly India says, okay, US, we will not have a travel bubble, your US arrivals will collapse and you will stop getting bookings. So that time you can't say, okay, I'm not connected to OTA from France, from Germany, from Japan, from Spain. If your destination is getting customers and guests from that destination, you really need to be connected to OTAs there. Also look at tour operators. Tour operators is a great channel because leisure is picking up. And earlier tour operator market was totally offline. Now you have companies like RateGain is one of those which allow you to dynamically connect to tour operators. So you can do dynamic distribution with tour operators. If you don't have a channel manager, please invest in a channel manager, because you know you will need to recreate rate plans. When you're adding new OTAs, you will need to do the tedious job of room mappings and etc. So earlier you could just use an extranet and rely on MakeMyTrip and a couple of other channels and do it manually. But I would say now you need a channel manager more than ever. I think personalized content is going to become very important. So depending on the persona of guests that you cater to, which could be stay vacation, solo, fraternity, newlyweds, petcations, LGBT friendly, digital detoxers, golfers, have content on your brand site, on your social media channels, which caters to them. And then talk about services, crisis accreditations. You might also have accreditations on health and safety from the local hospital, from WHO. So talk about these things because that's what the guest is looking for. Last 5 years in terms of travel, hashtag offer, or the word offer was one of the most searched hashtags. this year, there is a word which took it over, and 68% people are now searching for it. And that word is staycation. So really need to, if your tour operator brochure, if your website, if your social media does not talk about you being an ideal staycation hotel, it might not work out very well. And also, if you're a large chain which has had to furlough people because of COVID and crisis, I think you can look at a partner like RateGain, which has a massive India cost advantage, because you might have people in US, you might have people in Europe. So look at partners like RateGain, which can do your distribution work and actually save you 60-70%, which you can invest back. So these are some of the thoughts I had.
Right. So before I come back to the inevitable digital explosion and opportunities, I was moderating a panel this morning for FICCI eConclave on digital, etc. And I had everybody there. And Dr. Jyotsna Suri, who introduced and moved away, as you know, she's the chairman and founder of Lalit Hotels. I mean, the question I had to ask her is that I can't see, my hotel friend tell me that one of the busiest time they have is in the morning when people are rushing out. They want their morning breakfast, they want the tea, they want, all that kind of thing. I said, when I can book my meal on a flight, when I can reserve a seat on the flight, why can't I book my breakfast before I check in on the flight? And I know I need room delivery at 7 o'clock and I book it along with my hotel voucher. And even I don't have to queue it in front of the reservation, the front office desk to re-register. So, coming back, you'll have to look at how you can shift digitally a lot of services which happen in the hotel to outside the hotel. But back to you about what you say on digital.
It's a very valid point, Ashish, and you've got me started off on a pet peeve of mine, which is travel and hospitality is possibly the second oldest or possibly the third oldest profession in the world. And we've had travel and hotels since the time immemorial. Even in India, we had this culture of sarais. Why does it feel that the sarai customer knew his guest better than the hotels today?
Right.
You would enter a sarai, the local sarai or the dhaba, and the guy would call you by name. He would exactly know what you wanted, and there was no CRM that time. Right? Why have we forgotten the basics which made us an industry which was much loved? Why did we become so clinical and lose sight of guest experience? There's a McKinsey report which actually says in the top 40 industries in the world, travel and hospitality is the 38th least digitized.
Yeah.
You still go to a same hotel twice, they will ask you the same thing. Can you give me your passport number? Can you tell me your nationality? They'll make you sit behind a reception desk. The check-in process will take a lot of time. And you've just come from an 8-hour flight, 10-hour flight, and now you're waiting in the queue to get registered and move in. The whole process from inspiration to booking, to stay, to post-stay is completely full of friction. And I think a part of the reason is we've really taken a lot of pride in ourselves, training people, investing in people, which was the right thing to do. And we have not taken enough pains to understand the world as digitized. The new millennial customers who are coming in are used to swiping left, right. They're not used to filling forms. And they are not used to people asking them what do they want. They are used to brands already knowing what they want. So if you're on Netflix and you've watched one serial, Netflix tells you these are the other episodes which you might like. Right. Netflix doesn't ask you what would you like to see.
Sure.
So why does the hotel ask you what dessert would you like? Yeah. Why can't it just use machine learning and data sciences and say everybody who ordered a Rogan Josh might like a kulfi after that?
Right.
Data sciences can do that.
Yeah,
sure. With a 95% certainty, everybody who ordered this also ordered this. We are still not doing that. So I think there is a massive scope for all hoteliers to reimagine their guest journeys. And to really do that, you will have to look at talent from outside the industry. If you continue hiring from the industry, you might get the same results. So look at e-commerce, look at digital organizations, look at app companies, and hire core digital talent which can reimagine your guest journeys and which will really, really allow you to leapfrog into the digital age. And we actually call it inside RateGain Hospitality 4.0, which means how do you become a digital hotel, which is completely guest first rather than hotel outwards.
Right. So lastly, so what are the innovations ahead for RateGain? And let's just one brief line on this. So much talked about data privacy, which goes around. I mean, you talked about data residing only with the OTA.
Sure. So I think, I think there is a genuine concern amongst people all around the world. So India is concerned that Chinese apps and Chinese companies could be taking data. US is concerned, and overall citizens have also become very sensitive. A lot of people feel digital platforms take data. Last year we had the Cambridge Analytica scandal, and these concerns are very real and they're only going to increase. India still, the per capita income is $2,000 per person. The moment it goes beyond 4,000-5,000 and Indians move up the Maslow's hierarchy, from roti, kapda, makan, it's become roti, kapda, makan and bandwidth. And then it will become roti, kapda, makan, bandwidth and privacy, data privacy and digital privacy. And the moment that move happens and Indians move up the value chain of Maslow's hierarchy, they will start asking the question, why do you need my blood group as a hotel? Why do you need so many details? Why do you need my spouse's birthday? What will you do with it? And you have GDPR, which is a very strong law in India. In India also, we are debating a law. Before the law, we had this whole do not call registry, which didn't work very well. I think the interesting thing is going to be I'm sure we'll come up with a very good law to protect data from guests. How well we will be able to enforce it. I think we are very good at making laws. The enforcement could be better and it will remain to be seen. And I think at RateGain, we pride ourselves on really, really being very cautious with the data we handle. We are GDPR compliant, we are PCI compliant, which is the credit card security and safety. And our servers are all cloud servers. The data doesn't rest. And all the data which passes through us is not visible to anybody in RateGain. It's all anonymized and it just passes through our pipe. And I think as industry participants, we would request more and more companies to please be sensitive about the data you handle and make sure it doesn't fall into wrong hands.
Right. So let me conclude here by the term, say more power to you, Apurvu and RateGain. I think you're in the right space at this moment because the hotel segment itself is not very well placed and able to utilize times ahead. But let me move you back to Karthik. Karthik, if you have any audience question or a question to cap this up.
Thanks, Ashish. And Apurv, pleasure listening to you. And I relate to specifically that pet peeve around, going to the same hotel again and again. I have raised it with many, CEOs of hotel companies who have been on our show, that why the hell you need to do that. And, I just want to get your thoughts on two things, Apurva. One is, you talked about some of these advanced analytics and AI and machine learning. And one of the key issues around getting them is data. Although travel is a transaction-oriented business and it generates a lot of data, but authenticity of that data, making sure that it's entered at source once and not, it's clinically hygienic. That's one problem I've seen in the travel industry a lot. And the second is, even if that part is sorted, how do you see some of the future applications of emerging tech? I mean, I've heard some hotels trying to use computer vision cameras for ensuring social distancing and hygiene standards, using VR enabled imagery to give you comfort before even you travel. How do you see some of those technologies being integrated into your platform and try to see if the customers are ready to pay for that premium and help them in dynamically planning their, RevPAR projections?
Thank you for asking that, Karthik. It's a very, very valid point. Interoperability in hospitality is not something which exists today. Most hotels use disparate systems. So your PMS system does not talk to your POS. Your POS does not speak to your CRM. Neither of these speak to your channel manager. None of these are then integrated with your website, which is the booking engine, and so on and so forth. I think the good part is the industry realizes it, and more interoperability connections are being built. The new products are actually built on containerized architecture with open APIs, which allow you to connect very rapidly to other systems. Hotels will need to also become tech savvy so that they understand the complexity of the landscape they are creating, and they don't just buy products which are cheap. And I think cheap technology makes you happy today but gives you grief over a lifetime, while if you really invest in world-class technology, the lifetime value of that technology is exceptional. At RateGain, what we have done is we provide a lot of competitive pricing data. Now that data is layered with social sentiments, events, weather, airline flight capacity. So it gives you demand indicators from car rentals, airlines, buses, trains, and it gives you a composite view of the market. So we're a big data company fundamentally. So we have a big data lake where millions of data points are streaming in every end, and then they are getting tagged, corrected, categorized, reference architecture created, and that's the way to go.
Right. And I got last question from Satya, who's asking that, do you see RateGain venturing into an end-to-end booking and management system SaaS based for TMCs?
So we already do some work with TMCs, with large TMCs around distribution. I won't say never because everything is open, but as of immediate, I would say we have no plans to get into booking engine and management systems for TMCs. It's a highly fragmented market. If you walk into CB, every building will have a TMC and so on and so on.
Right.
I don't think we are the people who can consolidate this industry. Right now, our focus is on hospitality, OTAs, airlines, car rentals, cruises, ferries, package companies. And then when you think about TMCs, we are right now only catering to very large TMCs and corporate travel providers like Amex and BCD.
Okay, fair enough. It's been a pleasure listening to you, Apurva. Thank you so much for
Pleasure is all
sharing your
mine,
thoughts.
and thanks to you and Karthik, Ashish, for running this amazing platform and giving RateGain and me an opportunity to participate in this amazing initiative. I want to tell all the amazing industry participants who are on the call on Facebook and Zoom, RateGain is always there to help you. We also have a site called Better Tomorrow. If you need advice on anything, on revenue management, on distribution, on social media marketing, please reach out to either me or any of my colleagues at RateGain. We will take out time, we'll get on a call with you and try to help you. It's going to be a $0 call, non-obligatory. The intent is just to help the industry.
That's
wow,
good.
That's an open offer. Thank you so much, Apurva. And thanks, Ashish, as always. And thank you, everyone.
We'll keep that conversation going.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Thanks.
Thank you.